The first class, if I remember, we had highlighted the philosophical aspect of Savitri, and then we discussed what is the greatness of the life divine. We are not yet really gone into the main theme of pain and suffering and evil. I think today I will take it up, but the structure of our analysis would be on three levels: philosophical, psychological, and practical. So I would like to approach this problem of pain and suffering on three different levels. And on the very first one, I'll give you the background of philosophy, which obviously is from Sri Aurobindo's The Life Divine. And also there are some other essays, one of which I brought this morning. But to begin with, it's interesting to see that this question of pain and suffering has really created a new religion. Which is that religion? Which is kind of, born out of this question of pain and suffering.
Christianity?
Not as much. Which really started with this question of what is this pain? Christianity is a different ideology. Somebody who was suffering this experience of pain and old age and disease. Who was that person? The Buddha. The Buddha. You see, it's interesting. These four experiences which he had during his youth. Somebody in suffering, because otherwise, the story of the Buddha, he was a prince. A prince was called Siddhartha, and his father did not want him to see the common life, which is full of suffering and pain. So in fact, he was not allowed to go out of his fort. And to the extent that the king, the father, had provided him with all the pleasures of the world, all the riches of the world, all the comforts of the world. So he had no occasion to go out of the fort, his palace, and see how a common man lives. But as destiny would have it, once without telling his father, he takes his chariot and goes into the city, into the village, the town. Then first time he sees a man who is really suffering out of pain. And for the Buddha it was a bit of strange thing, because he had never seen a man suffering, shouting, crying in pain. So he was a bit amazed, what is happening? What is this experience of pain? Because he himself did not have anything like that. So he comes back to his palace. And then, after a while again, whatever the time, we don't know, he goes on and sees an old man, somebody walking, on the stick, and very old person. And this vision, drishya as we call, was also new to him. Because in his palace there was no old man. They're all young, beautiful ladies and men and all that. So he says, my God, there is human being also like that, who becomes old, who becomes folded, is walking with the help of a stick. Then that also he observes, gets into his experience. And of course you can see sequentially, third time when he goes out, he sees a dead body. In India, as you have seen, they carry the dead body on the shoulders, 4 people carrying, and some people around him doing some bhajans or things. So he asks his charioteer, who is this man? He says, a dead person, what is big about it? But he doesn't know what's the meaning of a dead person. So these were the 3 big experiences of his life, which we see around. It doesn't touch us. We say, okay, dead man, old man. But here was a completely contrast to his life. And the 4th time he goes into the world, into the city, he sees a sannyasi. So the charioteer says, sir, he has left the world, he has nothing to do with it, no relations, he's sannyasi. So imagine the young Siddhartha has these 4 main experiences, and that sets him to think that is this life the human life, and is this a life full of suffering and sorrow, ending in old age, ending in death? So what is the solution for all this? Is there a solution, or everyone has to go through the same rhythm and the cycle? So that's what sets him to think. And on thinking, he says, I have to find a solution for that. So imagine a young Siddhartha who has just gotten married with a very beautiful princess, and he even had a son. But one day his desire for that unknown becomes so strong that I want to find a solution to this human pain, that he leaves his palace, goes at midnight into the forest, and he gives away all his gold ornaments and his throne, and he cuts off his long locks, wears a sannyasi's dress, and walks into the forest. Well, the rest is the story that you know. Why I talked about this is one of those religions which was really kind of, inspired by man's problem of pain. So trying to get a solution to this pain and suffering, he found the solution in nirvana. Because for him it was the main question, what we see in Sri Aurobindo, which he had taken up later on in his Life Divine also, that if God is there and if He is all good, how can there be this evil, pain and suffering? This was the major question. So which has been taken up by him long back, and the same problem remains today. If there is God, if He is all love, He creates evil, or if He does not create it, at least He permits it. So that was the reaction. If you say there is God, who is all perfect, all love, then how can He create this opposite thing called pain and suffering, death and old age? So because he could not find an answer, he immediately rejects the concept of God, that there is no God at all. There cannot be the possibility that there is a God. Because if you say He is there, then if you say no, there's somebody else who has created, not God, then why did He permit it? So his best thing was to get rid of the notion of the divine or God. That is why in Buddhism basically we don't have the concept or idea of Godhead. And then, what is the solution then? Solution is to get into nirvana. It's neither God, beyond God, no God, but it's an extinction. You get into that level of consciousness where you have nothing of the world, no human beings, no desires, nothing. So that's why the word is called extinction of your own self. And so what I want to tell you, that question which started the Buddha to go into the forest, and when he comes back, he creates this great religion of Buddhism. But in this entire Buddhism, you will see there is no concept of the divine, and therefore there is no concept of the soul. Because those of us who believe in a transcendent divine, we believe in the immanent divine. Immanent divine is the soul or the psychic being. So for him there is neither soul nor God. So this so-called divine consciousness, spirituality, it doesn't exist. And yet you see he has created a religion which is worldwide, I don't know, second to Christianity or whatever. It has pervaded the whole of Far East, it has gone to the West also. So this is really a very, very important question. That person called Siddhartha, he found an answer for pain and pleasure, pain and suffering, in going out of life, going into nirvana. Then there are so many others who have also tackled with this. And it is in this light that Sri Aurobindo gives here a very small, beautiful essay called The Principle of Evil. If you have that, you can take that. You can take a copy from that. So that is why we see that this question of pain and evil has been taken up by Sri Aurobindo once again. And it is so very important that he has given it an ample 2 chapters almost in the Life Divine, and some stray essays like this Principle of Evil, and quite a big portion of Book 6, Canto 1 of Savitri, which most of you know, you must have read that many a time. So that itself shows that what is the importance of solving this problem of pain and suffering and evil. Otherwise, Sri Aurobindo would not have given it that much space in his writings. And that is such a common problem for human beings that he had to take it up and see through and see what exactly is the solution. So with this background, let me take up this principle of evil. If you have a sheet in front of you, want a sheet there? It's up to you. So now here the title is The Principle of Evil. And we'll run through some places where it's important, I'll stop. But otherwise it's pretty clear. It's not from the Life Divine, it's some other volume. The problem of evil is one that has taxed human thought and evolved various and conflicting solutions. To the rationalist who does not believe in anything not material, the problem does not exist. Everything is in nature as a result of evolution. Nature is blind and unintelligent and has therefore no conception of good or evil. The conception belongs to the human mind and is the result of the social sense and the ideas of pleasure and pain developed in human beings by a perfectly intelligible natural process. It is to men who believe in intelligence as governing and developing the world that the problem exists. Why did evil come into existence and what is its purpose? So this is the first view of the rationalist, who takes up this problem of evil in a natural manner. He doesn't put the cause to be a god or this, that. He says, fine. There's nothing good or evil, nothing bad or anything. It's a movement of evolution. There are things that are up and down, but we have to accept them as it is. So what I want to say is, basically, the question of the divine source, divine cause does not come up with the rationalist. Then there's the next one. The unwillingness of the devout soul to admit that evil can have its existence in God has led to variations of the Manichaean theory, which sees a double control in the world, God as the principle of good and Satan as the principle of evil. This is the Manichaean. Manichaean is a theory that started by an Iranian philosopher called Mani, who brought out a very simple thing. All that is good is created by God. All that is evil or bad is created by Satan. So these are the two different creators of good and bad. And there's a constant and a regular conflict between the good and the bad, between God and Satan. Very clear. So those who regard the belief in the existence of an intelligent evil power as superstition find the origin of evil in man who abuses his freedom and by his revolt and self-will gives birth to sin. This solution solves nothing. So this is the third one, that is the principle of Satan, principle of God, and then those human beings, they revolt against God, they go on the camp of the Satan. So it's a very simplistic term. There are three people, God, Satan and man. Man has the choice to take up Satan or to God. Those who revolt against God, they automatically go towards Satan. So it's a very simplistic theory, but it was there at the time, pre-Christian era, and that is how, in fact at the time it was quite a contestant to Christianity itself. Sri Aurobindo says, but this solution solves nothing, for it does not explain why there should have been a possibility of evil at all. Unless we limit our conception of God as the source and creator of all, that from which all proceeds, we must admit that evil as part of the economy of the world must have proceeded from him no less than good. So for Sri Aurobindo is now arguing that this does not solve this kind of three principles. Because the main principle, God existed first or Satan existed first? God. If God existed first, why did he permit this being called Satan? So he says we must admit that evil as part of the economy of the world must have proceeded from him no less than good. Even if we violently posit another creative force in the world limiting its universality, we shall have to assume that he, having the power to prevent evil, permits it, for he is omnipotent, and none can do anything except by the permission of his all-wise and overruling providence. Well, it's the same question. See, the very fact of God, the very concept of God, it implies many things. First thing is good. God is all good. Second, God is omnipotent, all powerful. And of course, we have other words, omniscient, omnipresent, that's different. So two things that come up is, he is omnipotent and he is all good. Now if this is my concept of God, then why did he give a permission to things that are anti-God, like Satan? So that means he is not omnipotent. If he is not able to control Satan and has by force given permission for the existence of Satan, that means he is not all powerful. This is simple logic. If I can do everything here, if whatever I want to, that means I am all powerful. If somebody says, no, you cannot do this much, that means my power is limited, is cut. So they said, if you want God to be all powerful, He should be able to do everything. If He cannot do something, that means He is not all powerful. And then if He allows anything evil, that means He is not fully good. That there is something wrong with Him. So all kinds of arguments are given here. And so he says, and if we limit the omnipotence of God, we reduce Him to a mere demiurge, a great artificer of things struggling amongst forces over which He has not entire control. Such a conception is unphilosophical and contrary to the universal spiritual experience of mankind. The problem remains, why, if He is God, all love, Sarva Mangalam, He creates evil, or if He does not create it, permits it. The same conclusion. This is the second stance. First one is the rationalist, second one is the believer. For him God is all good, but he is not able to philosophically answer the question, if He is all good, why evil? If He is all powerful, why did He permit it? So this also doesn't solve the question. This says, take it out. Now the third problem, third angle. To our mind here, it takes up the integral philosophy, or we can say the Vedantic. Now what is it? To our mind, there is no escaping from the belief that if God exists, is all. This is Vedanta, that we do not give permission to any other non-God or Satan or whatever you want to call it. It says no, everything is God. One divine, one God. All proceeds from Him. From what other source can it proceed? All exists in Him. In what other being or continent can it exist? Therefore, evil must proceed from Him. Evil must exist in Him. Since He is all-wise, for all knowledge is His, it must exist for some wise and perfect purpose. Since He is all love, it must exist for good and not for anything which contradicts good. So you see, now this is Vedanta, simple and straight. They take the responsibility that there is evil, there is something not good, but we do not shove the responsibility to Satan, keeping God all good and great and beautiful. He says, no, God is great, He is the only person. So if evil has come, it has come from Him. If there is suffering and pain, it is He who is the source. So Vedanta takes boldly the concept that all is within. And the reason is, since He is all love, it must exist for good. This is an important phrase. So what all we are thinking is pain and suffering and evil, it is existing, yes. Why is it existing? He says, this much we know, it is existing for the good of the human being. Now what is the good of the human being? Can he experience the good? That's the question. Now Vedanta would say and Sri Aurobindo would say, yes, there is something good behind pain and suffering also, which you may realize now or tomorrow. But have this much faith that out of all this pain and suffering and evil, there is something better and good that is waiting for the human being. So he says, only He is an infinite wisdom, ours a finite. His perfect, ours undeveloped. His is an infinite and all-wise love, ours a finite and unwise love. A love imperfectly informed by knowledge, full of maya, attachment to passing happiness and pleasure. God's love looks beyond, ours fixes its eyes on the present, on the moment. So one thing philosophically we have to understand and accept, that is, His is an infinite and all-wise love, ours are finite, and we are attached to the passing moment, whereas He has eternal vision. So in this Vedanta, or Vedantic philosophy, there comes in the question of faith and trust. What is the faith and the trust? That the divine is infinite, that the divine is all-wise. So if He has created this kind of an unhappiness and sorrow and suffering, there must be a reason which He knows. You see, this is something, just today I was reading some messages where Sri Aurobindo says, there was a discussion in the 1935 regarding the independence of the country of India. No, not in 35, I think after 47. 47, as all of you know, there was a partition between India and Pakistan. So somebody asked Sri Aurobindo some question, and Sri Aurobindo says, at that time, I see clearly India is reunited. Just a simple mundane experience, the example. He says, I see clearly India getting reunited. Now you see, this is a thing that somebody in his all wisdom, he sees the future. Then the disciple says, how do you see that the division is just now made in two big countries, two religions, and so much difference? He says Pakistan has been created out of fraudulence and falsehood, and Pakistan must come under the military ambit of India. Imagine a man telling us in 1949 or 50, I'm not too sure. But what am I trying to tell you this? Some wise person, he can foresee the future. And therefore he says, we, the common human beings, we cannot see that wisdom. So we are fighting, we are quarreling, we are doing all that. But he says, through all these fights and quarrels and wars, there will come a time when India will be reunited. An example to tell you exactly in our own life, when we have these problems of pain and suffering and all that, there is the element of faith, element of trust in the divine, to see that, okay, for the present I am suffering. For the present, as you said, India and Pakistan, we are fighting each other, killing each other and all that. But there is a greater wisdom which says, no, there will be something good that is happening out of this fight. A beautiful harmony, unity is bound to come. Because he is a person, a rishi, who can foresee the future. So similarly, Sri Aurobindo gives us an example that we too must have faith in the divine, that through all this pain and suffering, something comes to you on the individual level also. For that I'll take you to the mother's explanation later. Now I'll skip one paragraph here. I'm going straight to the third view. The materialist is not wrong when he holds good and evil to be merely operations of nature, which he uses impartially and without making a distinction, and that the distinction is an evolution in the human mind. Evil is good disintegrating to prepare for a higher good. That which is now tyranny was once necessary to consolidate human society. What was once an ideal state of society would now be barbarous and evil. Morality progresses, religion widens with the growing manifestation of that which is divine in the human race. As with the individual, so with the race and the world, evil tends to good, it comes into existence in order that men may register the lesser good and rise to the higher. So this is, of course, taking you beyond into deeper philosophy. It says evil is good disintegrating to prepare for a higher good. So this is an evolutionary process. That what we think is bad today is an unfoldment of the good of tomorrow. So we see here that which is not tyranny was once necessary to consolidate human society. What all we think, whatever is happening in the world, but for a simple example, which all of you know, what we thought of the French Revolution. The massive killings and the guillotines and the whole story of French Revolution. But today if you sit back and see what did French Revolution contribute to humanity. You see, the present at that time was terrible, horrific. The killings and the revolt and all that. But if I say that today's world would not have existed had there not been that French Revolution. So that's why he's saying there is a tyranny that was once necessary to consolidate human society. But out of that French Revolution, we had this mantra, liberty, equality, fraternity. And it is those three words which have formed the world of today. Be it Russia or China or India or Europe or America. They've been all based on those three words which are born out of the French Revolution. So that's what Sri Aurobindo is telling. What was once an ideal state of society would now be barbarous and evil. So similarly, when there was the great French kings, Louis XIV, Louis XIII, Louis XII, that was an ideal society at that time. But by the time it came to Louis XIV and Louis XVI, the whole society was in goddamn place. It was pure suffering. So what was an ideal, later on it becomes, as it says, barbarous and evil. So nothing really remains as it is, ideal or bad. Both the things, French Revolution did not remain French Revolution. It turned into something really contributive to humanity. The great emperors, they did not remain good. They also became barbarous. They started sucking the blood of the common man. So what Sri Aurobindo is telling us is that what is happening today is not the ultimate. There is a constant, continuous evolution. There is a rise and fall, but always there is a forward movement. And a forward movement towards what? A forward movement towards unity. Human unity, world unity. Because that is the target of evolution. So what had begun with a complete disunity is quietly moving through a lot of struggle. In fact, in one place he would say, somebody asked Sri Aurobindo, I think, that why isn't the world progressing? Why isn't that we have so many movements of peace and we have this, we have Auroville, everything has started for the sake of human unity. There have been so many movements, so many authors, so many seminars. He says, no. You cannot have peace until you have gone through this struggle. In fact, he uses a beautiful image. He says, you cannot reach Vishnu until you have satisfied Rudra, that is the Shiva. So you see, Sri Aurobindo is very realistic. Just because we are aspiring for human unity, human peace, it doesn't mean that we do not have imperfection, impurity, struggle and violence. He says humanity is not ready for Vishnu. Vishnu is that peace and beauty and unity and quietness and idealism. Rudra is at war and fight and struggle. So he says humanity itself is only at the stage of Rudra, the Shiva Tandava. So it's only tomorrow it has to prepare itself through so much of struggle. Then we will go to the age of Vishnu or the age of human unity. So Sri Aurobindo is practically, he accepts the struggle part. That you have to struggle to gain that peace. It will not be given to you on a platter saying, oh, you are all great Aurovillians, you have started a beautiful project 55 years back and you'll get peace. No. That is what is called the transformation. What we were, the barbaric, the animal nature, has to be transformed into higher nature. So it is not that the world unity or peace It's not something external, it will be given to you on a platter. It's purely an inner transformation. As and when you transform your own being, that is what will result in human unity. Not because there are 50,000 people gathering into Auroville out of 10 years or 20 years. It's not the gathering of people. It's the making of the man. So here he would say, as with the individual, so with the race and the world, evil tends to be good. It comes into existence in order that men may reject the lesser good and rise to the higher. I mean, so beautiful. He says, evil comes into existence in order that men may reject the lesser good. See, there is always, as I gave it the example of the French Revolution or even the Russian Revolution and all that, all revolutions are kind of a cleaning up of the lesser good. At that time, Louis, the king, the French kings, great kings, Louis XIV and XV, what was ideal at that time was a lesser good, because that good was not percolating to the common man. It's only the royalty that was enjoying. So nature and the divine want that there should be beauty and comfort and riches and wealth and food and care for the humanity, for the entire humanity, not for a few hundred people of royalty people who are enjoying the riches and the wealth of the country or the nation. So that is the ideal of evolution, when the entire common man also enjoys. So what was good at the time in French Revolution, now that has become bad, because it has not reached to the people. So it says, it comes into existence in order that men may reject the lesser good for the sake of the higher. Now after dealing with all that, now he comes to the main question that we are taking here. The problem of pain remains. See, with this background, he takes us directly to the question of pain. The problem of pain remains. Was it necessary that the process should be accompanied with pain to the individual? Now this question of pain, was it necessary? So the first question we ask is, pain is there. We have all gone through or going through or will go through, whatever. We cannot escape it at one level or the other. But then the same thing, was it necessary? Question one. At one time the capacity for pain, physical and mental, was infinitely less than it is now. So little that it might be pronounced to be nil. It's a remarkable fact that disease, pain and grief have grown keener with the growing fineness of the human organization. This is something that we need to understand. The pain, physical and mental, was infinitely less than it is now. What was that time? Why is he saying at one time the pain was lesser? Which was that time? Can we think of any answer to that? Why is Sri Aurobindo saying at one time the capacity for pain and physical and mental was infinitely less than it is now? So little that it might be pronounced to be nil. When was that time? Can we have a guess on that? Is it 50 years back, 100 years back? Pardon? Ram Rajya? Satya Yuga? Closer to Danyamata. It is not the question of Satya Yuga or Ram Rajya, because as long as there was Satya Yuga, Ram Rajya, we human beings were the same human beings. But he will explain this question now. You see, this next question, it is a remarkable fact that disease, pain and grief have grown keener with the growing fineness of the human organization. That is the word. It's not the question of a yuga. It's the growing fineness of the human organization. That means, what you said is right. That you see, Satya Yuga, Rama Yuga, whatever the yugas, the human being was the same. But before the human nature became what it is, the mental, fine, it has become refined, when it was a more a gross humanity, where the physical was gross, the vital was not developed, the mental was not very refined, no sense of aesthetics. So it was, as she said rightly, more towards an animal nature. When man was closer to the animal. At that time, that's purely the physical, like the animals, there's the grossness. So the word is fineness versus grossness. So when human nature was gross, then there's a pain. Because you see, he has no emotions, he has no relations. There's nothing aesthetic, there's a beautiful painting, or he feels sad for that. But it is purely physical, that means only eating and drinking and being. So as we get more and more refined, then our vital has improved, our mental fineness has become, our sensitivity has increased. So as we become refined, you see, to give you a very simple example, a man on the street, if you have come to Puducherry, or I don't know, you can feel. See, sometimes I see these young boys playing in the canal, in the canal water, or lying on the roadside. Now just try to imagine. So if I see that fellow, sleeping on the gutter, now some people may just pass by, parvaile, sleeping. But if you are more sensitive, you shirk, you say, my God, look at that man. Because your sensitivity, your refinedness, your refined emotions have become better, so you cannot see the dirt and the man sleeping on the gutter and very dirty, not taken bath. But there may be some people who say, fine, it's his life, what do I bother? So there is this sensitivity, as it becomes more and more refined, our pain also increases. Because, there is this beautiful sentence later on that we'll get here. Not in the Life Divine. What is the origin of pain? He goes into that word. Okay, what's the origin of pain? When you say pain, what is the experience? We all have gone through pain. What is the experience of pain?
It's the full concentration. It takes the full attention.
One aspect. Any other answer? Experience of pain?
It's impermanent.
Pardon?
It's impermanent.
Impermanent, very good. That's one aspect, very right. But, experience, but I want you to understand, tell me, when you have a pain, what is the experience then? I'm not mentalizing. Impermanent. Pardon?
You are the present moment? No?
You're not meeting your desire.
Pardon?
Not meeting your desire.
Not meeting your desire? Well, I don't know all that. You see, contraction. Yeah, I want to ask you that experience then and now. What is that you said is contraction? What?
Most of the time is refusing the pain.
Refusing?
Yeah, so it's like...
Stop.
No.
That's the right thing. That your expression showed better than your word. That is what is in Sanskrit called jugupsa, means rejection. What you are saying, refusing, is the Sanskrit word is called the jugupsa. What you said, contraction, that means that kind of, I don't want it.
Separation.
Yeah, separation. It's kind of, you retaliate. It is so gross, it is so insensitive, it is so, contraction of So it is, the word, actually exact translation is withdrawal. So the sense of withdrawal, rejection, being away from it, because when you have the pain, this is the real experience that you are going through. So here also when we see this word, so when we said pain and grief, when I was telling about the sensitivity, so because you grow more sensitive, you say no. The very fact you see a man dirty sleeping there, what is the reaction? Oh no, terrible. So that oh no is that pain. But that comes only to those of us who are sensitive. Some people say, no, parvale, I see it every day. So you are not sensitive. So pain and grief, they increase with a kind of a sensitivity, which will increase as you are growing in your human consciousness. In the beginning it was animal consciousness, then the vital, then the mental, and then the spiritual. Now your question would be, then will the spiritual man have more pain? That's the question that we need to answer. That means I don't want to be spiritual if I'm going to get more pain. Why should I be spiritual? See, there comes the dilemma.
But it's true that people who start having practice, like spiritual practice, meditating and becoming more refined, they like in France, for example, they can't live in the city anymore. They have to withdraw and live in a
Forest.
Or like in the nature. They become very sensitive. So in a way, the question comes, maybe we are less adaptive than before. Before we could adapt ourselves to the city, to the noise, but now that we are sensitive, we are less adaptive and we need to protect ourselves. So it's like there is a good things because we want to go higher in vibrations. But the bad things is like on earth we become more sensitive and more fragile.
Not adaptable, yeah.
Or fragile or...
Yeah. Now I know why Auroville don't come to Puducherry. Muruga? Now I know the answer. No Aurovillians come to Puducherry. They say, oh no, that noise, that dirt, that smell, that pollution. So that means you are all spiritual here. Great spiritual people who can't adapt to my Puducherry. Oh Puducherry. I'm just joking, just for you.
You're right,
I'm right also. Yeah, you see, that is the thing, non-adaptability, but that is not the answer.
Everyone likes ashram, Ji.
Everyone?
Everyone, all Aurovilians likes ashram, to go to ashram.
Started going to ashram. Good. Yeah, you see, that is one thing.
But then the compassion increases.
So there, for the higher spiritual people, they may suffer more. But what you said, the element of compassion comes in. So it is not rejection that takes place. In fact, the highest truth is, they take the suffering into themselves. They drink the suffering. Started with our famous Christ on the cross. We have hundreds of examples in India. Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, Mother. We have got the written documents to see how much of suffering they drank. The famous mythological story, Shiva's throat is supposed to be blue because he drank the human poison to save humanity. So this is there for the highest spiritual people. It's always the question of drinking the suffering and pain of others, humanity. So they don't suffer in that sense, but they absorb so that humanity gets relieved of their pain, they take it. So Sri Aurobindo in his beautiful sonnet, he says, I have 1 million wounds on my body. I mean, that one or two sonnets are there. He says, my body is full of wounds. Because he's being taking all the suffering and the suffering of humanity, they absorb. So to be on the higher spiritual level is not to suffer, is to share and absorb the suffering of the common man. So that is the line we see here, that keener with the growing fineness of the human organization. Obviously, this can only be a temporary development necessary to prepare a higher race which shall rise above pain to a higher capacity for pleasures and happiness. Now, he is giving the answer to what we questioned here, that to prepare a higher race which shall rise above pain to a higher capacity for pleasure and happiness. You see, there are two things that can happen. One is what I said, you absorb the pain of others when you are becoming spiritual and more spiritual. That is why we go to a guru, a spiritual master, a saint, because they help us by absorbing our pain and our problem and our suffering. But there is another way. That is what the Gita has said, Bhagavad Gita, that you rise into a higher consciousness where you do not feel the pain and suffering of others. So there is a level of consciousness where you say, I am beyond, the word is beyond. So you do not feel. So one thing is not the question of going into nature or going away from common man, but living in the common human society, you rise in your consciousness where pain and pleasure do not reach you. Because if we really go into this question of pain and pleasure and suffering, how did it all begin? I mean, let's go a little deeper into this question.
And how?
Huh?
How did the thought begin? That's what you said?
How did it start?
The thought of pain.
With heart?
Thought.
With thought.
Yeah, that's
Okay, with thought. But how did that thought begin? From where did that thought come to you? Yeah, your answer is right, but I want to go a step behind. Where did that thought, why did you get that thought or the pain and suffering? Suddenly, I don't say I have pain. Long back when you were a child, something said.
Missing something.
Huh?
Missing something. I'm having a grandson. When he misses his mother because he's hungry, then he has pain, then he cries.
Say once again, very beautiful, very right. Once again, tell me.
I have a grandson. I take care of him. But if his mother is away and he's hungry, he has pain, he cries.
You got that?
Yeah.
Tell her what she said.
She said that if a child is hungry, he will miss food and then he will experience pain and he will cry.
Not understood.
So the pain will come by missing a comfort in that case.
Need. Now see, these are the very important words that you have said. I like your word, missing something. Now when it is missing something, when you're not getting what you are wanting or need, then there's a pain, we call it pain of separation, pain of need, pain of hunger, pain of this thing. But the essential experience behind all that is, I'm missing it. Now the same word I'll take it one step behind and say when your thought began is when you missed God.
The first separation.
That is the first missing. So that is my soul which has taken birth in this human form, to become this individual body. So then I am away from the other. You are separate from me. The word is separation. When Adam ate that apple, he separated himself from God. And that is what you call sin, and that is what we call pain. The first separation, the first sense of separation is the beginning of pain, which gets translated into your child missing, into your child, wife missing, or I missing.
What was the cause, the first cause?
Of
Of the pain, of the missing.
Of the separation.
Why the separation?
Right. You are a better philosopher now. Yeah, you see, I've taken you back and now you ask me the same question. Go further back. Why the separation? Are you coming into my next class? No. 12 days later, 15 days later. Yeah, in fact, we are going to go into the deeper question, answer. But now that you have asked me, I'll tell you. Why this separation? That is the reason of this creation of this world, earth. The very fact of this creation or this manifestation is when the divine says, I will become the many. The one divine, he says, I'll become the multiple. So the whole separation begins from the beginningless beginning. And once that individual has become separate, then obviously that missing comes.
So the creation of new people creates the pain, as you were saying.
Creates the pain. Now, what is the solution?
They are always looking for complete and looking for the God because we always feel incomplete.
Correct. Now, what is the solution to pain?
Come back to the divine.
Huh?
Come back to the union.
Finish. So you have answered it yourself. So the cause, separation. The answer, unity.
Does it mean that the suffering started when the division started?
Yes, division started. So this pain and suffering started only because
But it
of.
was a choice of the divine.
Is it the?
It was a decision of the divine to multiply
Exactly.
itself, to experience itself.
So you see, we are not the cause. I am not taking the blame. What I want is, I want the solution for my pain. You see, I don't want a cause and effect. You see, I'm suffering, I want the solution. And the solution is unity.
Come back to
Unity.
But is it a physical separation or is it a sense of separation?
From all of your philosophy background.
I had the idea behind that course.
Oh, yeah, the question. He says, is it a physical separation or is it a sense of separation? Yeah, maybe you're all philosophers, tell me the answer.
There was unity before the multiplicity was created, and it will go back to unity on a higher level?
On a higher level?
That's the idea?
That's the idea, but this man is asking me, is it a physical separation that I'm separated from you, or is it a...
Is it a sense of separation because is it ignorance that makes you understand you are separate? Or is there really a movement towards each other, if it is an external thing?
Well, both. It is ignorance plus there is a movement, because the one who gives you the sense of separation is the ego. So it is the ego which gives me, you see, there is a physical separation. Okay, we are all physically separate. But then there is on the psychological, spiritual level, there is the ignorance. So the two levels have operating. Physically, there is a physical separation because the divine wanted to be so many individual dots, the multiple creation. But he didn't want it to be separated in consciousness. So like you see, like the raindrops which fall on the ocean, they come drop by drop, but once they fall on the ocean, they're all one. There's no separation. But as a drop falls, is an individual. So we have also dropped on the earth as individuals, but then it says the moment we drop as individuals, we get this ego. Ego keeps from physical separation, psychologically separate, emotionally separate, intellectually separate, and the clash will begin. So the whole birth, the meaning of this birth, is to lose that psychological separation. Physically I cannot merge into you, but psychologically I can merge into you, taking away the wall which is called the ego. Right? So you see now this simple question of pain is not so simple. She took deeper, she took deeper, she took deeper. So ultimately it comes to that original separation. And then, according to your own theories, you know, the sense of separation came When somebody ate that apple or orange or banana, what was that?
It is that simple.
This evolution, how does Sri Aurobindo
No, not sure. I want to answer her. So what was that, an apple or what was this?
Apple of knowledge.
Apple of knowledge. Had it been in India, the story would have said mango. Because mango represents knowledge here. Mother has given the meaning of mango as knowledge. So in Indian mythology, Adam has eaten not apple but mango. However, so that is the fruit of knowledge.
So why eating the fruits of knowledge will separate you from the divine?
Because this knowledge is mental. Mental. So mental knowledge is always separated. It's not the inner knowledge. Inner knowledge is unitive. It never separates.
What about Jnana Yoga? It's a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, but you should have come to India at that time with Vedas. You are not there at that time. So they represented mental knowledge. Jnana Yoga is what the Vedanta, these people say that. So what we conceived in Christianity was till the level of the mental knowledge. Mental knowledge is always being in separation. It is a Jnana Yoga. What is the meaning of Jnana Yoga?
The yoga of knowledge. Jnana, the knowledge, the wisdom.
Yeah, but what is the full word, Jnana Yoga?
To unite with the divine true knowledge.
Ah.
Right?
So there's a yoga aspect, the unity.
Because in India, the knowledge is a path to bring you united.
United to the divine, with the divine.
Whereas in Christianity, the knowledge, you separate from the divine.
Separate.
So,
but this knowledge that unites is not the mental knowledge. Is not the mental knowledge, it's the inner knowledge. That which takes you towards that. Somebody else asked me some question. You asked me.
If you are in pain physically, and you don't go there, but you concentrate on the pain, it does become less.
Will that?
It will.
Nil.
It will become less. If you have pain anywhere, you concentrate on it. It will become less.
It will become less. Did you try that?
Yeah.
It's practice.
I cannot get everything away, but it clearly becomes less.
Good.
So how come?
How come? I'll tell you after that how come. In fact,
Vivekananda asked about suffering. He prayed to the divine, always give suffering. What it means that?
he said, give me suffering. Good. And did Kali give him the suffering? Did she give?
I don't know about that, but I'm asking that why he has, because pain is disconnected between God and human beings. So I'm asking, do you know that why he prayed to the divine that give me suffering?
Now, when you are suffering, are you united with others or when you are happy?
I read in one book, but that inspired me when we are talking about now pain. So that time it's...
No, I understand, but I'm putting a general question. That when you are suffering or when you are happy, so what is the experience of when you are suffering and when you are happy? What is the consciousness at the time? When you are in pain, what is the consciousness? When you are in happiness, what is the consciousness? You were saying that?
The pain you contract. You concentrate.
And you're in happiness? Isolate. And you're in happiness?
We don't know who we are at that time. When happiness comes, we do not know who we are. And when the pain comes, we completely focus into the point that why we get the pain.
Yeah. So it's very, I think I've all read Sri Aurobindo very much. I am happy about that.
We don't need you anymore.
Yeah, I think let's walk out. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, you see, that's the beauty. When you are suffering and pain and all that, you are with yourself, not only contraction, isolated, but with yourself. There's a chance of going to your true self. When you're happy, you're with others. And what you said rightly, I forget who I am. And I don't know how to describe all that happens in happiness and in parties and dances. You lose yourself. You are not the individual X. You are part of the group, shouting and drinking and buzzing and all that. So Mother would say the same thing, that in happiness you are further away from yourself, and thereby from the divine. Because you are lost your entity. You see, beautiful explanation. You see, it's not the question of happiness. You say, I can sit there on the tree and be happy. That is a happiness in which you are with yourself. All that leads you away from yourself, all the dancing and the singing and the new music there you lose yourself. This is that kind of happiness is no good. So, we have come to questions. Anything? Now this. So what I said was about the higher consciousness, and then she says we have got to go to the next race, and then the lower organization resisted the sanskara of pain and grief. By the coarseness of its composition, it rejected pain in the sense of not knowing it. The higher organization of the future will not be below it, but rise above it. It was the knowledge of good and evil that brought grief and sin into the world. When that knowledge is surmounted, man will rise above grief and sin. Before he ate the forbidden fruit, he had the innocence of the animal. When he shall cease to eat it, he will have innocence of God. Beautiful. Is it not so that in the nature pain is a possibility which has to be exhausted, and man has been selected as the instrument to bring it into existence in a limited space for a limited time and work it out of the cosmos? In the light of this idea, the Christian doctrine of the Son of Man on the cross acquires a new significance, and man himself becomes the Christ of the universe. So now we have a different idea here. It says, in the beginning, our nature was having the innocence of the animal, but later on in the evolution we'll have the innocence of the God. Now the last question, last para. Another question occurs: is pain real or a shadow? The Vedantist believes that the soul is a part of God or one with God himself, and cannot feel pain or grief, but only Ananda, bliss. The Jiva or soul takes the rasa, the delight of the dualities, and it changes to bliss in its nature. But this is veiled by the ignorance and separates the Jiva and his Swarupa from the mind and the heart. Pain is a negative vikara or corruption of the true experience in the mind. Pleasure, a positive vikara. The truth is Ananda, but this is a knowledge for which mankind is not ready. Only the yogin realizes it and becomes sama, like-minded to pain and pleasure, good or evil, happiness or misfortune. He takes the rasa of both, and they give him strength and bliss, for the veil between his mind and his soul is removed, and the apparent man in him has become one with the Swarupa or real man. If mankind as a whole came too early by that knowledge, the evolution of the perfect good would be delayed. The utter sweetness of daya and prema, pity and love, might never be extracted from the Leela. Okay, this is highly philosophic. Now, getting into the question of pain. Now, the basic question is, who gets the pain? Of course, we will say, obviously, my body. But then the question is it pain real or a shadow? that the soul is a part of God and cannot feel pain or grief but only lives in Ananda. Now this is something that we need to understand, that what happens, okay, we said my body gets the pain and my vital gets the suffering, my mind gets this, or sometimes my body has the joy, the pleasure, the happiness. The question is, what is the value of all these things to the soul? You see, we have to connect these two. One, we have the outer body, mind, life and body. Then we have the inner person called the soul. Now both are there in this single frame. Now is there a connection or not between what the outer body is doing and the soul? Or is the soul says, well, I have nothing to do with you guys. What life, mind and body you do is not my business. You see, this is a bit of a tricky thing. Because one side we say that the soul cannot feel pain or grief but only lives in Ananda and bliss. So, it's a bit of a radical question. Then why all the suffering and pain? For whose purpose? For whose evolutionary purpose? Why should I suffer all these things? Why is God giving me pain, pleasure, this, that? So what is the necessity of this experiential world for my soul? Experience of this outer world is good for me. I build a home, I build a Savitri bhavan, you people come and live here. It's good. My mind, my vital has built this, and some people are taking advantage. So this, for the sake of the collectivity, is good. Fine. What all I do as an architect, as a poet or a painter or as an artist is nice for humanity, for collectivity, But my question is, how does it connect or influence, or does it at all, my soul? If not, both sides there's a problem. That is the central question, you see, we need to ask. Otherwise you say, I'm a soul, so what? What is happening to the soul and your mind? I'm a great artist, I'm a politician, I'm a warrior. So this is the missing link. Most of us, we do not know. Tell me.
I'm wondering if it's not about identification.
Even?
Identification. Like to who or what I identify myself. And then it's like a training to remember who I am. And get into that truth that I am not the body. The body is experiencing. And by training myself to who I truly am, then maybe things are happening outside, but the soul can observe and is not identified to it. It might even be playful or joyful, like a theater.
No, I understand. I learned. That is the question of the witness Purusha. What we say, witness Purusha. Fine. I can observe the thing, my body, my life and all that. My question is not that. My question is, I am the body. It's not in relation to the soul. But you see, I am taking very, very practical existential problem. Today I am suffering, tomorrow I have joy. And then you say, hey, you should control yourself, you should not have so much of this thing, so much of... Why am I saying all that? And this body experience or the vital experience or the mental experience, good, bad, control, whatever. But does it have any impact on the soul or not?
When you say I am the body, is it true that we are not the body?
But I have a body, no?
Yeah, but it's a vehicle.
It is it?
A vehicle, like I have a car.
Yeah,
and
fine.
It's a vehicle of
Fine.
soul.
Okay, that philosophy is good. But now, I got hurt here. It is paining, my hand is paining.
Yeah.
Can I say no to this? Say no, you're not the body or an instrument, even if I beat it? No?
But as you say, like if you observe it, may just, like if you, as we said in the very beginning, if you reject it, it may last for a long time, that pain. But if we just observe it and not overreact to it, we may just observe there is pain, but I am not the pain.
You're not the pain.
It's something that can be developed. I mean, there are practices that we can develop it through meditation, through witnessing.
So what are these doing, meditation and all that?
They reduce your identification with the pain.
Reduce identification with the pain.
So you are less impactful when you live here on the earth. What we say, carbon neutral, or you are living but with very less impact on how much you consume,
Fine, no, you have a point, definitely you have a point. Now what you have said is true, that my pain becomes lesser by meditation, by observing, by saying I am not the body. All these are means and methods to draw away from this external pain or pleasure or that thing. These are methods and means to go within and say, look, there is some pain, there is an experience, but it has become less. Yeah?
Add something here, because meditation also, sometimes I don't hear people speaking, it also removes the cause of the pain, which is samskaras. So when you meditate for a long period of time, the pain also reduces, because the samskara, the cause of the pain, the vasana, samskara, that cycle is broken. So,
well, I don't know that tradition. We do not have it in Sri Aurobindo, because we have hardly any, except we have a beautiful Matri Mandir. We don't have a place for meditation. We don't have place for meditation at all in our yoga. We have place for concentration, Matri Mandir. Because in this yoga, all activities must connect you to this psychic being. The only means or only value of any activity is if it's taking you towards your soul. But meditation, if it takes you towards a central being where you are getting disconnected, say no, not interested. It's a good activity, sit there for 10 minutes, but what you're saying, this kind of the yoga which speaks about Purusha and Prakriti, the inner being and outer being. In Sri Aurobindo's yoga it is there. Sankhya Yoga, which is the basics of this philosophy, it is there. Sri Aurobindo accepts Sankhya as the starting point, as a start-up. But beyond that, he says no, we don't have a permanent use for this. It is the first start-up to say, hey, this is my nature, this is me. So that discrimination, that separation is important. Because when the mother says you must understand who you are, first thing is when she says vital, mental being, etc., the first step is the Prakriti versus the person, the spiritual person. So that separation is what you are saying is important. For integral yoga, it is important, necessary step. It's only after that when I become the inner being, I don't even say I become, there is a beginning of a feeling that I'm not this only. The word I would add to is, I'm not this only. It's not that I'm not the body. I'm not the body only. I'm not the body, mind only. I do not want to reject my outer nature, because in Sri Aurobindo, the transformation of the outer nature is absolutely fundamental. So I cannot reject it saying, no, sorry, I don't belong to you, I'm somebody else. No. Only thing is, I'm not only the body. I'm something more. I'm something more. Many things more. So we give a due position, due importance to the outer being. At present, the outer being occupies 80% of my consciousness and my activity and my living. So he says, no, it's not your 80% of your living. It has maybe 20% or 30%, but there are so many other parts of my being, the subliminal, the psychic being, the superman. Yeah.
Awakening, when you say psychic being awakening, there is a huge element of surrender there. sometimes meditation helps you in that surrender process, at least in the psychic being part.
Stop. You see, meditation is a very vague word. You can use it for many things. Somebody says, I want the silence of the mind, somebody says, I want this. But meditation in the ashram, in the mother's sense, if it is a dynamic meditation, wherein which starts with a prayer, so there is in fact an aspiration in your heart. If that is the meaning of your meditation, do it.
Yeah, that's right. We don't know what meditation means because there are so many different types of meditation. So when someone says meditation, we don't know what it's
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So
yeah.
which sense are you saying?
Yeah.
Somebody wants this, somebody wants...
Right.
Yeah, I was telling you something more. What is that?
Prayer.
Prayer starts with
Yeah.
starting with prayer. Active meditation starts with
Yeah, so this, we have, so the question of the meditation, Mother would say that if you start with what you're saying, starting point is the aspiration, then that leads you to a level of consciousness where you do not disconnect with the world. So the thing was, coming back to the Sankhya Yoga, yes, I have this outer being, the inner being. And I have to first separate my inner and outer, then come back to the outer and say, hey, who are you? Mind, life and body, are you fine? Are you united? Are you harmonious? So there's so much of work to do there. But the first thing is this going back. Because being in the water, you cannot fight all these things. You have to come out of water. Then you can handle this guy's mind, body and light and say, hey, you are the mind, you are not having this, you are not having this, you cannot do this. So there is, you be out of the water, then only you can help, you can discriminate, you can see from there, oh, this is my mind, life and body, etc. But if you are inside the water, you cannot.
You think you're the one.
Pardon?
If you are inside of the water, you think you are the one.
Exactly.
So that's why
You cannot separate. Nor can we help.
have some discrimination.
So that distance, discrimination, distancing is what Sankhya says about question of Purusha, the witness Purusha, Sakshi Purusha as they say, and the outer Purusha.
Because the thing is like it's not enough, it's just the first step and then it's
And this is the first step. Let's call it as the first step. Then there is all this question of the outer being, then there is a subliminal, then there is a soul. There is a long journey. But this Sakshi Purusha is not the psychic being, is not the soul. It is what we say Manomaya Purusha, the mental Purusha. You see, what happens in meditation is by the mental Purusha says, I am not you guys. Not the real psychic being which is still down there somewhere. It says you have a long way to come. But the mental Purusha is an agent of the psychic only. Agent means some representative on the mental level. So we are, you see, this is the simple thing. We have the psychic being, we have the Purushasya, we have the subliminal, and we have the outer. So this is your mind, life and body. Subliminal also there is mind, life and body, but we say subtle mind, subtle body, etc. This is the Annamaya Purusha or the mental body, Pranamaya and Manomaya, or maybe the reverse. And this is the psychic being, behind that is the soul, behind that is the Supreme. So now you see the journey. From the mind, this is outer being, mind, life and body, which is under the domination of the ego. Now you see the journey. So what I have done, this is I've gone to the mind, I started meditation, I went to the subliminal, and then, this is the, mind. This is the Manomaya, Pranamaya, and Annamaya. So what is happening is that this mind, you are meditating, go with the prayer, and then you come to this Manomaya Purusha, which is your Sakshi Purusha. So you have not yet reached this psychic being. You have reached the Sakshi Purusha, which is connected, which is an agent of these three. So now this is the very first step of the Sakshi, which is according to the Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga. So by this Sankhya Yoga, integral yoga accepts it to the extent that you first identify with this Sakshi Purusha. And after that you have to identify with Pranamaya, Annamaya, then only you start getting glimpses of the true psychic. So you cannot leap from this mind into the psychic, not the life into the psychic, not our life or the body into the psychic. There's a whole path here. That is called the inner path.
Is it the proper plain class? I mean, to ask how do we identify that we are in
Manomaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha.
How do we identify that, and how do we identify that? It's not the right class, I don't know. Is it question is right?
You are coming next class? You better come. I'll give you a full class for that.
I'm coming to give all the class.
I know you people come for a day and go, but we keep class by class, so there is a little rhythm in that. However, just because the question has come, I'm giving just this thing. How long are you here?
No, I will come to all your classes.
I will come to all my classes. Oh, good. Then you keep your questions. Then you have a long way. No, that's wonderful. I'm happy about that. Your questions are good. I will take it forward. I'll take you forward on that. Basically, we have a little time out. Savitri Bhavan closes at 6. Now, talking about pain so much, I want to take you to experience. As I told philosophic, I have not had anything to do with Savitri. We'll take it up tomorrow on the next class. When I come to Savitri Bhavan, I think I should take a class every day. It's so good, But I have a whole host of things there, but Savitri Bhavan has a little charm, There's the Savitri around. However, we'll see. No, I will sit when I want to. I'm not seeing your camera at all. No, take it. Now, I was telling you, now every one of us has gone through some pain. Yes or no? Sure. Yeah? You have any specific part of the body you have pain? You have now or in the past? Stomach or legs or back? What part?
Knees.
Knees. You're a strong man, I think you don't have pains. Yeah. Not knees.
Not knees.
Yeah.
I had toothache. Toothache.
Oh, toothache.
Here.
Yes, my God.
Yeah, here, belly.
Oh, belly.
That's terrible.
And you? Stress. I want a body pain.
It's very stressful. It's very.
I want a damn physical pain. Not stressful pain. I want to tell you which part.
No, I don't have to.
No? Lucky lady.
I get up on the headache.
Headache. Good.
And you?
She has no pain.
No.
Have pain?
Once upon I
Huh?
once upon I had a
Knee pain, huh?
sit down.
Good. Now the thing is, what was the reaction when you had this pain, your toothache, earache? What was your first thoughts? We were discussing about. I didn't ask you about your pain.
No, for me,
Heartbreak. My God.
Very serious.
Very careful, huh? Be careful. That's a big pain. Yeah, we all have passed through or passing through. Well, I am passing through a terrific pain right now, but that's fine. We all have pains. Now the thing is, how do we take it? Now, what is our attitude, let's say, when we have this pain? What is our attitude?
Why?
Who said that? Great. Very important. The why. Maybe I'll add one more. Why me?
Me, yeah. I didn't dare.
But I know what's happening there. You say, why me? There's one more word added to that. Says, why hell me? Why the hell me? So we all ask the question, why me? Because, okay, little toothache or earache, you may not be that, that kind of a disturbed. But when you have acute pain for days together and all that, then you start feeling the why. Now the question she has said, she concentrates on that part. Now I think we have a little time. I'd like us to do some exercise. Can you all sit down, legs down, sit straight. Just close your eyes. And try to point out which is the part of your being which is having the pain, which part of your body. Just again, even if you don't have, at least go back to that area of pain which you had. And now concentrate on that part. Now after that, what we do is take 3 times deep breath and then inhale very slowly and exhale, inhale very deep, very slow inhaling the breath with nostrils, not with the mouth. Do that thrice. And now with your concentration, call for peace to descend into your heart level, what we call the solar plexus. Now this is the prayer that I was asking you. Now pray with this, not the prayer attitude, but with the invocation, peace, come down into my solar plexus, peace, descend through my head into my solar plexus. Now this is something which you have to do at home when you do, as long as it's necessary, but we can do it for a short while now to get the experience. You don't have to do it loud, but either there's a peace of the mind or there's a peace of the heart level. Heart level is your aspiration which is going up, or with the mind, again you can aspire, invoke. Mother also speaks of the psychic peace, but we may not be able to do that. We just now aspire, those who want to have the heart level or mind, whichever. Just invite, invoke peace to descend into your solar plexus. And this absolute concentration. Do not do anything, no other movement, physical or mental. Just come down with the peace. Just keep calling as if there's a little trickle of the peace coming into your solar plexus. A trickle, drop by drop, it's coming. There's a white, luminous light in that peace. A little drop by drop will come into a little pouring. Slowly let it descend into the solar plexus. You call for peace, is not only imagining, but mention the word peace or even the Sanskrit word Shanti. So call for the Shanti into your heart chamber. Once you feel a little full in your heart chamber, solar plexus, now with your mental imagination, take this peace exactly into the area of your pain. Either it's legs or knees or ears or dental. Even if it's not there right now, you may not be able to suffer, you may not be suffering. But you, because you have experienced the pain in that area, direct this peace into that specific spot. Do this movement many times. Take this into that spot where it is paining. If you have done it a few times, I'm taking you a little fast, but you do it at home later, taking time. Now once you have directed this peace to the spot of pain, Now on the mental level, put a strong thought, a formation, saying that after all, that there is only one divine reality, that there is one divine reality behind everything, and the body is nothing but a deformation in the cells. It's a deformation of the divine reality. So that should give you a little bit of objectivity, what we're saying, spacing, seeing around. So once you have put the piece there, go back to the mental level, mental state, and then put a strong formation to say that this entire cellular formation is but a deformity of the divine reality. So this establishes the fact that this body, behind this pain, there's one divine reality. That's the mind which is strongly supposing this, that this pain, that this body is a divine reality. But at present, deformed and not the true reality. Now once you do this, do all the three movements one after the other as in sequentially, calling for the peace, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti into my heart chamber, solar plexus, and then direct that Shanti to the point of pain, and continuously thinking in the mind level that this body is only a representation to a deformation at present of the divine reality. So there I am separating myself, and this pain is not mine, but it has an origin somewhere else. Divine reality is there behind this entire body and this pain too. And to this you add the last and the fourth step. This is the most important thing, where with the deepest part of your being you call for the grace of the Divine Mother. This is the step of surrender. This is the step of surrender. You call for the Divine grace. You call for the Divine grace on the spot of this pain, on this entire body. So this becomes a dynamic meditation, and at the same time a very practical advice to remove, to lessen the pain. The more and the many times we do this practice, your pain may vanish. This is the truth, because pain never belongs to the body. It comes from outside the body. And we, in our ignorance, we own the pain and then think it is mine and ours. So it is only by the Divine grace which alone can remove this outer force that has attacked my body. So once again, let us do the four steps of this process. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The last step, keep surrendering to her, the pain, the body. Give it as an offering to the Divine Consciousness. Slowly you will realize that the body itself becomes so conscious, and it has a joy in this offering. That is how the pain can convert to a deeper joy, when it offers on its own to the Divine, without the interference of the body, of the mind or the vital. That is the ultimate stage. Let the body itself surrender to the Divine. And at home you practice, at least take out at least half an hour to do these steps, and you will see the result, guaranteed by the Mother herself. When she says, when you do these 4 steps, I am sure that within 5 minutes your suffering will disappear. So have this confidence, and let us practice for half an hour whenever you need it, or as many times in a day as you want.